Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who are doing a deep dive into a book series, one book at a time. Right now we are shiting on the Wheel of Time, and we are looking at Robert Jordan's fifth book, The Fires of Heaven. I will forever get these names wrong. I always
There's a million of them.
I know. It's like I was making notes for this episode and I was like, what's the main bad guy's name in this book? And I had to like put a question mark, and then I found out it was Couladin. So Couladin. Yeah. So
the main bad guy doesn't really have a name.
No, the main guy. Well, no, he's the dark one.
The dark one, which is the most bland villain name ever. And it's like the villain in every single fantasy series is the dark one or the Dark Lord.
I mean, but they have to be Dark Lord. They can't be the light one, because
that's what we should do, is flip that kind of thing on its head and make the light one be the bad one.
Even the worst darkness can be ruined with a little light, Laura. That's why people use that. That's why it's that trope.
I'm not a good author, I guess, but it's so generic.
I agree. But Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I've been reading The Fires of Heaven.
I mean, same.
I had a bit of a snag because I was listening to the audiobook, and then my phone speaker stopped working for whatever reason, so I had to finish up the book with my eyes.
Your eyes?
Actually reading instead of using my ears to listen.
But I had to finish with my eyes.
It's much slower with my eyes than it is if I listen to someone, because my eyes can't read at 2 times the speed. So
yeah, I mean, I do listen to these books. I usually at the beginning I'll listen at like 1.6, 1.7, and then by the end I'm like 2 times the speed works. It's fine.
That's how I had like 20% of the book left, and I was like, oh, come on. But it all worked out. I finished it.
That sounds good. Are you watching anything?
I watched Onward on Disney Plus.
Oh, how did you like Onward?
I'm such a sucker for all these Disney movies. They just know how to get me. I cried in Luca, I cried in this one.
I haven't watched Luca yet.
Know how to make me sob.
They're very good. I do know that like I felt like Onward it didn't hit me like the other movies have. Mm-hmm. But it did hit my brother-in-law, so I do think it's pretty good for like men.
Well, it's a brother story.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you enjoyed it though, and you cried.
Yeah, it was really
apparently.
Good.
So
I mean, I don't even think I have to relate to any of them at all. I can just cry. I have no brothers, but I could just cry thinking about people who have brothers and their relationships. I just, these animated ones, I'm telling you, they know how to get me.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was just thinking about like how different I am from my 20-year-old self, because at age 20, I like held it in like high esteem that I quote unquote wasn't a crier.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this specifically because I mean, I've been thinking about my mom this week. That's like this whole solo travel was supposed to be me getting away from things and like getting out of my safe spaces and really like learning what it's like to be alone without my mom again. But
for the listeners, Hannah is on a solo trip.
Yes, I am in Denver, Colorado for a week. I will be working still. It's not like I'm taking a full-on vacation, but I'm hiking and just taking times to,
Anyways, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. But I remember a conversation my mom and I had because it was a very funny conversation, where she was crying to me and I wasn't being as like receiving of it. And she was like, Hannah, I feel like you are not sensitive to my emotions. And I said, Mom, when I was 5, anytime I cried, you and Dad stuck me in a room until I stopped. So maybe I just never learned how to be sensitive to other people's emotions. And my mom said, well, Hannah, sometimes we make mistakes, and that was one of mine. But you did cry a lot. And so when I was little, I cried all the time, and they just stuck me in the room we called the toy room until I stopped and just started playing. And I was an oops baby, and that is how oops babies are often treated, because parents were done parenting by that time.
They're tired.
They had other kids. My sisters were like much older than me, so they were like, and my sisters used to torture me, and I cried over everything. So my parents would just be like, just go sit in the toy room until you're done. But like now as an adult, I realize like No, I'm much more sensitive. And I think that it's better this way. Like, I would hate to be a 30-year-old woman being like, I'm just not a crier. And I'm really proud of that fact. Like, it's different.
It doesn't take much to get me to cry.
I mean, I cried at a stupid YouTube video of like, watch these 10 hosts break down. And I started crying through all of them. So I cry at proposals now. I cry at lots of stuff. Yeah. It hits different as we get older.
I'm not even kidding. Like, certain cards that I've read, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so how I'm feeling. And then I'll just like break down. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening to me?
That's so funny, because as someone who used to work at Hallmark for years, my brand is never getting someone the card that fits the occasion, unless it's like a wedding and I don't know them very well. But like for birthdays, I'll be like, I'll just get them a sympathy card. Or
that's funny, because last year for my husband's birthday, I gave him a thank you card because I didn't have a birthday card and I ran out of time to go get him a birthday card. So I gave him a thank you card and I just wrote, "Thank you for being born."
And did he enjoy it?
I mean, yeah, he got a laugh out of it. So
I also use my cousin who I live with. Her mom does this thing at weddings that she started with one of my sisters when they got married. She forgot a card like at her house. So instead of like running out and getting another one, she just wrote a note on hotel stationery. Sorry, I forgot to give you your card, but don't worry. I wrote a check for the cost of my gift plus the card amount. So you knew I wasn't trying to be cheap with you.
Plus the card amount.
Yeah,
it's just $2 on here for the.
It was
card.
like $2.75 or something. And I've actually done that before. And like one of the girls from our sorority house like texted me the next day and she was like, Hannah, we laughed so hard. And like nothing is more on brand than you forgetting a wedding card and just giving me a little extra money for it.
That's
so I've
very
done
funny.
that before. And highly recommend it to people who forget a card at a wedding. Just add $2.75 to the gift and be like, hey, I didn't cheap out. I just added the cost of the card to the gift.
That's very funny.
Yeah, highly recommend doing that. But that's funny. I'm usually not a card person. I think it comes from years of working at Hallmark, though.
You're probably just kind of over the whole card thing at this point.
Yeah. I don't know if I've said this on the pod, but one of my favorite memories of working at a Hallmark was like this lady called in and she's like, I'm sending my son to pick up Advent candles. They need to be at the front for him because he won't be able to find them. And I was like, oh, of course, thinking like this woman's sending in her 6-year-old son so she doesn't have to get out of the car. You know, it was like winter, obviously. And so I'm waiting there and then in walks my 17-year-old high school friend. And he was like, I'm here to pick up these Advent. And I was like, you are like, he was 16 or 17. I'm like, you are a teenager. You can ask for help when you walk into Hallmark. Why did your mommy have to take care of this for you?
I mean, that kind of sounds like something that my mom would do for my dad. She would call a store and be like, he doesn't know where to go. Please leave them by the front.
So funny.
My dad's almost 60 and he would need the Advent candles up by the front. But also, I do want to point out, though, that like Hallmarks and similar stores to Hallmark are very hard to find things in.
Well, that's because Hallmarks are all privately owned. So it's really just like the only thing. So like Hallmarks are franchised to like individuals. So they franchise like the Hallmark label and the name and items within the Hallmark. Guys, I worked for Hallmarks for like 7 years. I know so much about these random card guys. And for people like who aren't American, Hallmark is just like a gift card store where you can buy other kitschy items. And also a big brand of my personality is I hate kitschy things. So how I successfully worked at a Hallmark for 7 years is amazing to me. But
because they have like the little signs that say like, not to brag, but I have a great dog and stuff like that.
Yeah. Signs that say like wash your hands, and it's like I think that people know that.
Yeah.
But you need them in your bathroom.
But they don't. But
yeah, that's fair. But
those are actually the necessary signs. But
it's just like a very kitschy store where you buy things, and I worked there
a
for
lot of like collectible type things,
right?
Too.
Yeah. So, but like all the collectible stuff is usually purchased from the store owner themselves. Like they just work with another company to bring that in. So no Hallmark is going to 100% have all the same items. And so like, that's the one in our hometown was recently purchased by like a much younger girl. So she has a lot more like clothing and fashion items in there than you're going to find in like one with an older lady, you know, who runs it. So that is just a little insight into Hallmark things that nobody asked for. And I don't know why I'm telling you guys.
I will say though that I've gone to shop at Hallmark and it's a lot because there's so many things and you go in and you end up with things that you're like, I didn't come in for this. I just wanted a card. How did I spend $100?
There's also just so many things that like we would bring out, like St. Patrick's Day. You just always have to have like a cauldron, or not a cauldron, but like the little pots of gold. Well, like pots of gold or something. Like you're always going to have like a pot that says like, you know, this is where I keep me Lucky Charms or whatever. Like it's all stupid stuff. And it's just like, and you're selling it every year. And like, it's
do those actually sell though?
No, we just keep bringing them out and then packing them away. I was
gonna say there's some holidays and decorations that I'm like, I don't think that that's necessary to decorate for, and maybe I'm just not into St. Patrick's Day like other people are, but I just don't feel that it's necessary to decorate for St. Patrick's Day. But
it's not. But people do buy stuff to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, but mostly, yeah, like people. Like
I know my mom gets like those little window cling things that she likes to put on the windows, and she'll do that for the different holidays. But I don't know, she'll decorate for Christmas and Easter and Valentine's Day.
It was wonderful because
then like St. Patrick's Day, it's just like the window clings. And
yeah, I mean, I get that. I would agree. My mom always had like table runners that she made, and she would change out the table runners.
Sure, that makes sense. That's not over the top.
No. But yeah, we had different stuff for different seasons. I did like that Hallmark though, because during college and law school, if I wanted to come home during like the break and stay for break, she paid me under the table to do her inventory. And I do appreciate that lady paid me money under the table. We never, you know, can't turn her in.
Inventory is awful. So
it's not
I don't
awful.
Blame her for wanting to get somebody in there to do it.
It's not awful if it's just like I'm a student, like, and I'm just counting random like willow tree items. It's not that bad.
I think it's bad.
I was mostly making charts. I think she had to like actually put in like the amounts and inventory stuff. I was mostly counting things and listening to podcasts. So that is something I did as a young adult. But anyway, I'm glad you liked Onward. This devolved so quickly into like Hannah describing her job at Hallmark. I'm so sorry.
Well, I think it's interesting though.
Yeah, no, but Onward is definitely good. I'm definitely much of a more sensitive person. I did not cry at Onward, but I'm glad that you liked it so much that you were able to cry at Onward.
Hannah, have you ever seen the movie Lion with Nicole Kidman?
No, I have not.
Okay, that is one of my favorite movies. And I literally sobbed in that movie. It was just so emotional.
Is it about a lion?
It is not about a lion.
Oh, well then why is that its name?
You'd have to watch, but the main character is a little boy, and it's either his name or his nickname means lion.
Got it. All right, I'm on board with this. Okay, I'll have to.
But you should definitely watch it. It was so emotional, and I even think back on it now, and I'm like, oh, I could cry just thinking about it. But it's one of those movies that whenever people are looking for like a movie that they want to watch, that not a comedy, like a dramatic movie or something that they want to cry during, you know, because sometimes people want that. I always recommend that.
I sobbed throughout the entirety of the Hate You Give movie. So that's the last movie I think I really like sobbed to. Or
that's a good one.
That can't be true because I've sobbed so often in the last year, but it's always over stupid stuff like New Girl when Jess got engaged to Nick. Engagements are a huge trigger for me. I have my mom's engagement ring. Like it's just a huge trigger for me. I sobbed and then I was like, I've seen the show so many times. Why am I crying during this time?
Sure.
Like it was bad. So I don't think my emotions this year, I can tell anyone what will make people cry because I'm a big old baby and I cry over everything right now. But
what have you been watching and reading?
So I re-listened to our first episode because someone mentioned something and it made me nostalgic to go back to our first episode. And I realized I forgot I was watching the TV show Dr. Foster. I mentioned it that week. I finished season 1 of it. There's only 5 episodes, but they're like intense episodes that you have to watch. And I had to Google after season 1, does this one character get a comeuppance because I need them to, or else I can't watch anymore. Like this character, I hate them so much. I screamed at my roommate for like 3 minutes about them. And she was like, Hannah, this show is obviously like hitting something.
Why are you so invested?
Upset. I don't know. Well, again, I like British television. I think like sometimes they just have characters who aren't as redeeming, but they're still so human that it's frustrating. Like the whole show is based on like this woman, her husband's having an affair. And like, as an example, I won't say the person I hate a ton, but like the character who is having this relationship with him, you find out it's been going on for years. She is awful to the woman who she's cheating on her husband with. And it's like, if I ever cheated on someone, I think I would be so like ashamed around them, but she's just a complete monster to this woman. And it's just like, well, she's old. So obviously he doesn't want her anymore and he loves me instead. And so he just needs to leave her. And like the way she treats her, I'm just like, I do understand that like, yes, a person who has this extended affair with a man who does the thing this woman does would probably have those thoughts. I just like, they're hard to watch from a character when you're not like that. But I like that because I think it's like very emotive and interesting to watch as an exercise of like, oh yeah, these humans do exist. And then in season 2, I watched the first half of the episode and I like Googled like, hey, is this kind of looking like, I looked into theme. I'm like, is this looking into like what an abusive relationship sometimes looks like when there's no actual physical abuse? And apparently like this show caused a rise in the UK of women finding out that they were in abusive relationships. Because like there's like a ton of gaslighting and a ton of like undermining and like it's hard to watch that happen to someone.
Sure.
And very interesting, but also funny because there are moments where like, because she obviously like becomes a nightmare to him. And he says at one point, which is like just a great thesis for the show, people cheat on their spouses all the time. And all that happens is they get divorced. None of this other stuff usually happens. And you're like, yeah, that's exactly what you're thinking while you're watching the show. Like, this is so crazy and out there, but very good show. Hard to watch. I also, for TV show or for books, I am reading The Fires of Heaven, obviously, but I also listen to Tina Fey's Bossy Pants on my way to Colorado.
Oh, I love that one.
Okay, I liked it. I think it is very of its time. It was definitely made in there are certain sentences that hit different in 2020 where you're like, oh, Tina, you still have a lot of ways to go. Tina Fey is also like notorious for, issues of blackface that I think she doesn't necessarily regret. And I wish she would have more.
This was in the height of 30 Rock, correct?
Yes.
And if you rewatch 30 Rock, there's a lot of jokes that don't sit well.
Right. And she definitely is, an imperfect person. So reading her stuff, you definitely see some of her more outlandish flaws. I would definitely say she's definitely a liberal white woman. And that's it. But anyway, so I listened to that. We're also doing a collaboration with 2 of our friends, Fiction Fans Pod, and we're reading American Hippo. Yes. So I'm about 2/3 of the way through American Hippo. It's been my brew. Like I've been seeing different breweries in Denver and I'll read it while I'm there. And it's been lovely. I posted a picture of it on our Instagram. So you guys can all see that picture.
I'm about halfway through that one right now. So
yeah, I'm about 2/3 of the way through, I would say. So it's good. I am enjoying the read. Great for representation and all that jazz. We'll discuss that on their podcast though. But with that said, why don't we get into the rest of this book?
Fires of Heaven.
Chapters 29 through 56, which 28 was halfway through 56. So I'm just bad at math,
good. Guys. Yay. I did read halfway.
You did read halfway. Hannah's just a lawyer who doesn't do math anymore. So anyway.
Performing. So much math.
We run a business that takes bookkeeping and mathing.
I do accounts payable and accounts receivable. I guess there's some addition, subtraction.
It's actually very sad because my mom always told me I was her smartest at math and I hated it so much. My mom was like a bookkeeper, guys. And
which is interesting considering your sisters are in business and finance. So
I have 2 accountant sisters, and then one of my sisters like often does like front desk things in different workplaces, but all of them kind of work with money a lot of the time. And I hated math with a burning passion that my mom did not understand and was always like, "You're a wasted talent, Hannah." And I was like, well, then the talent is wasted. Like,
sometimes you're just good at something though and you don't enjoy it. I mean, it happens.
yeah, it was. I used to make a joke because everyone asked me for help in calculus that I was too pretty for calculus. And then it just became a running joke that if you did something stupid, it's just like, I'm pretty. I don't have to be smart. Guys, it was the early 2000s. But yeah, not good at math. Anyway, we come in with just a chapter on Hadnan Kadir, which is the dark friend who is like the tinker person, or not the tinker. He is a like person who sells things.
He's a wagon master or something like that.
And he is like talking about how much he loved his sister, how Lanfear visited him, and she told him to watch Rand and Natal, who is Asmodean, as we said. And she left him with burning scars so he would remember it. Then Ascendra comes in and she says she can't get near Rand because he's sleeping with Aviendha. He is not at this moment sleeping with Aviendha, but everyone thinks they are. And Kadir tells her to try harder, and she breaks down. She reveals that the women of the spear shaved her head because they caught her trying to go near Rand again. And he realizes that she is a broken person. And so he kills her because she would definitely turn on him and admit what they're doing. And then he admits that he also killed his sister, whom he loved a lot, because she found out he was a dark friend. Rand is out and about trying to avoid Moraine. He notes that because he is Taveran, people had to stop gambling because they kept rolling sixes, which is just the dumbest plot point ever.
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
But okay.
There's a lot of political things politicking all around them. Like Aiel fixed a blood feud. He is just running the camp. He's talking to people. You know, he finds out that he is entitled to like the taxes of an Aiel as the chief of chiefs. Like he gets a certain portion of the money. So now he's rich because they took Tyr and they have all these riches from there. There are some High Lords who come up and they reveal that Kyrian is holding down the fort for right now, but like it's going to definitely fall within 10 days because Couladin is attacking it.
Yeah, he's going to go
into siege. Says that they will be there in a week. And the Lords are like, no, you're not going to be there in a week. And, you know, he's just like, no, we will be. Don't worry about it. So then he returns to his room for Lauren, my favorite scene of the book. And he finds Aviendha naked, and she's
naked. What?
And she screams her little screams, and she makes a gateway
because she had been attempting to take a sweat bath.
Yeah, and like goes into a huge snowstorm, and Rand follows her naked, and Rand follows her because he's like, oh no, you know,
she'll never live out there in the snow. Well, no.
Well, also he was worried. I mean, in his defense, he was worried about the gateway like disappearing and her not knowing how to get back because she actually didn't know how to get back. But he like starts running after her. It's snowing so hard, and yet she still continues to run like he was about to murder her. And then she falls in a lake and he saves her. And then he like makes an igloo for them to stay in. And he like uses his powers to warm her. He gets her naked. He gets it. Well, she's already naked.
I was just say she's already naked.
He gets himself.
He just talks about feeling her skin so much and how he can barely handle it.
And so then he gets himself naked so that they can like have body heat between the two of them, and uses his powers to warm her up because that wasn't an option in the first place. And then she wakes up and she's like, I can't fight it anymore. And they fade to black.
You know, this is just a weird fantasy that Robert Jordan had about being in an igloo in the snow. So he made it happen because really there's no reason that they should have had like a weird gateway portal into a snowstorm.
This is
just a weird Robert Jordan fantasy that he wanted to have happen.
But now all three boys have lost their virginity, and only Aviendha of the main female characters. That's it. No one else. So,
and now Rand wants to marry Aviendha.
Oh my god, yeah. They wake up the next day, and he's like, "Well, we have to get married," and she's like, "No, we don't.
You belong to Elaine."
Oh my god, she just like. But like, also, how? Okay, so I've tried to get my head wrapped around this, and this is the best way I can explain it. For the Aiel people, it is a matriarchal society, technically. Like, women ask men to marry them. They discuss who's getting married to who with the women, with the wise ones. It's never the men who are part of the decision-making process.
Yes.
So with Elaine saying she wants to marry Rand, Avienda's going to fall in line with that because it's matriarchal and that's how Elaine wants it done. And so Avienda's respecting like the fact that Elaine is first in line for Rand. But
so she thinks he's spoken for, is what you're saying.
Yes, but you're still allowed to like have sex with men. Like they're a little like the Aiel people are a little bit looser with like, you know, having sex before marriage, which again, I am not a fan of.
Aviendha is not an idiot. She knows that they have different customs than the Wetlanders. So it doesn't line up in my mind. It doesn't line up in my mind because their customs are different. And it's noted many times how different they are, how how people can't understand their clothing or the way that they do things, et cetera, et cetera. So unless we're going to assume that Aviendha has just been picking and choosing what customs she wanted to hear.
Well, I think that that's what Jordan is doing, is he's letting her pick and choose with what goes with the plot. Like that's exactly what's happening. I mean, I didn't say it was a good plot line.
It's not.
But anyway, they come up and they run into Daman and Suldam, showing that they're in Senchian. They capture them, but they can't remove the leashes from the two women who are like slaves pretty much. Rand sees that the portal keeps getting, or the gateway keeps getting smaller and smaller. And he also sees some gray around it. And he's like, I know that's Saidin. It could be bad, but we have no other choice. So they go through it and Asmodean's sitting in the room and he's like, yeah, it was great because I made it invisible because I'm helping you out, bro. But I did tell someone that you guys were having sex. And then all these like women started and hitting things outside your window because they're so happy Avienda's having sex with Rand.
Oh.
And Avienda's like, I'm going to beat up whoever told on me, you know, her quote unquote sister. And she agrees she's going to sleep elsewhere and she leaves because they're never having sex again. It was a one-time thing. And Rand wants to marry her and she's like, no. And then
we're over.
Rand is angry that Asmodean never mentioned invisibility to him. And he's like, you need to teach me and I also need to know how to block flows of Saidar. And he decides to keep the dragon scepter that came through from the Stanchen because they like threw something through the gateway and it cut off. Nynaeve is in the traveling circus. She has to be a part of Tom's knife throwing, and Luca has like fallen in love with her. She's being called Nana, and Elaine blames her for Luca falling in love with her.
Which is not her fault.
She keeps being like, I keep telling him I'm not interested, but then I'll answer questions. And then he thinks that we could be together because I'm talking to him. And then Elaine's like, yes, you shouldn't be talking to him. You don't understand, Nynaeve. But yeah, so Luca's in love with her. It's not her fault. We're not blaming Nynaeve for this.
No.
And Nynaeve is also avoiding Egwene and Tela Anriad after Egwene threatened to make her drink that cup of disgustingness. But she's still going in a lot. There are lots of white cloaks in Samara. They're headed to Samara for this performance. Julian tells her he saw Galad. Nynaeve tried to get... Oh, yeah. And then you find out that, like, Nynaeve comes in and Elaine's like, what's that on your eye? And you find out that she, like, tried to get, like, aggressive with Sarandon, the Sienchen, and she, like, beat her up. And it's just like, why did this happen? It's so strange. And then Elaine reveals that she thinks she could make the leash. She thinks it's a ter'angreal, and that's like huge because no one's been able to make ter'angreals for years.
Right.
And she could use it like in better ways, and that's big. Nynaeve wants to go into the dreamland because Egwene won't be there, and Elaine wants like to go in her stead, but she says no. Nynaeve goes in. She meets up with Brigitte. She says she found Mogadine, and Nynaeve is like, take me to her. And Mogadine is watching the four Forsaken from the beginning of the book: Grendel, Samael, Robin, and Lanfear. They're all sitting on weird thrones that talk about their personalities. I'm not going to go into them because it's stupid.
It was dumb.
Like one of them's like naked people, and Nynaeve is like, my stars, and clutches her pearls. Samael is angry that they are sending Rand to him. He wants to be part of the link. They're planning to like take Rand down. They leave, and Mogadine follows. She knocks out Brigitte, and she hogties Nynaeve. Nynaeve tries to taunt Mogadine into killing her, but Mogadine plans to keep her around for a long time, like trapped in the dream world as a horse. She comments that there are only 9 Forsaken still around, and like she can use compulsion to make Nynaeve do whatever she wants. And suddenly Mogadine screams out as Brigitte hits her with an arrow, as she regained partial consciousness, Mogadine channels and Brigitte vanishes. Nynaeve thinks she is dead, and Mogadine disappears, and Nynaeve sobs in remorse. Leandrin is in the house in Amador. Mogadine comes in like bleeding. The women try to heal her, and Leandrin tries to attack Mogadine, and Mogadine overcomes her. She compels her to like be a scullery maid for people and like send her, out. And then she says that Nynaeve is with a menagerie and she wants them to go find her. They don't. That happens for no reason at all. I just
thanks, Robert Jordan.
Thank you, Robert Jordan. Drop plot line. Elaine is bored and she heals Nynaeve's black eye. She notices Nynaeve is crying in her sleep and she wakes up sobbing. Then Tom and Julian bring in Brigitte. She won't say who she is because she promised not to tell. And she tries to heal her. It's not working. She decides to bond herself as a warder, which like
Elaine does this,
which immediately Brigitte begins to recover. Nynaeve tells Elaine the whole story about what happened. She thinks Mogadine is probably still alive, and she's racked with guilt about Brigitte's status as one of the heroes of the Horn and how it may be just destroyed now that she was not reborn. And that is huge, and that's very upsetting.
Yeah.
They know that Mogadine will be looking for the menagerie now. Again, she does not find them, but they're already they're already near Samara, so it's too late to turn back. And Elaine wants to perform really, really badly. Elaine leaves and she tells Tom and Julian about Tala Anriad and the Black Aja with Mogadine, only omitting Brigitte's identity. But then Julian is like, yeah, I found the silver arrow. She's definitely Brigitte.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
They're not good at secrets, her and Nynaeve.
No, they're terrible liars. This is like the one where they decided to keep it. I'm like, this is the secret you guys decided to like keep track of? Okay.
And they're bad at that one too.
Yeah, and they're bad at that one. So Elaine goes back in. She's talking to Brigitte. She admits that she was only accepted, and Brigitte tells her that's happened to someone before that, and they like moved the warder. And she ended up like having this huge fight with whoever she got as the next warder, and then it ended up being like they were like in love with each other. I don't know, it didn't seem like it made very much sense.
Right.
Elaine is also insistent that she's going to bond with Rand, so now she has to be Green Aja.
I was going to say, that's a weird thing, that internal monologue about, well, I had thought about becoming different color Aja, but now I'm stuck being green because I want to bond Rand too, and hope he's okay with this. And it's like,
I hated all of that.
Who cares?
It was said too many times. And it does not matter because Rand has not consented to it. So I don't get why she thinks that that's going to happen. They dye Brigitte's hair. She refuses to go by her own name. And then she like shows that she's a master archer. So they're going to use the arrows, and Nynaeve in like similar to Tom's knife throwing. Now it's going to be arrows. And Nynaeve is very scared, but she's also being like very nice to Brigitte and being very like fealty, and Brigitte's like, stop it, and then she makes her mad, and Nynaeve walks away with a temper.
She's just very guilty.
Yeah. And then they like do their performance. Elaine has to do it without using the one power for her safety, so she does like the high wire act without anything, and she does it well. She practiced.
She has to do it without the one power because the Black Aja are near.
Yeah, or like Mogadine could sense it.
Yes.
So they were very worried about that. And then Nynaeve does her scene. She hates it. Then she runs into Uno, who was from The Great Hunt, if you guys remember. Shinerin. Okay, she follows him, and she finds out that like the Shinerin are all with the Prophet, who's this guy who's like screaming about the Dragon Reborn being Rand. And she finds out that it is Massima who is the Prophet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Massima, he's become a prophet for the Dragon Reborn, but he's basically like, even though he believes in the Dragon Reborn and all this stuff, he's really extreme and cruel, and it's almost as bad as the White Cloaks.
Yeah, pretty much. So he's just doing bad things in the name of the Dragon Reborn, which is not great.
Not good.
And he like steals all this jewelry from a woman, and Nynaeve is like, even if he's redistributing the wealth, like sooner or later he's going to be the one benefiting. And it's like, Nynaeve, radical leftist.
Right.
Like, so then she asks him to get a boat for her, like in the name of the dragon, and he's like, totally. And Uno's like, he might forget, honestly. And so then She runs into Galad, who like follows her. She tries to outpace him. He finds her and he's like,
Where's my sister?
Where's Elaine? Where's the queen? Will you tell me? And she's like, no, I won't tell you. And so he's like, I want to send you guys back to Camelin. This is no place for you. And he finds out where they were. He's uncomfortable with them being in a menagerie, as Elaine said he would be. And he agrees to send that to find a boat for them.
And they're like, well, that was easy.
No. And they're like, and Elaine's like, I guess we have to trust him. And Nynaeva's like, he's like, I'm going to send you back to Camelin. And she was like, it would be great if you got us a boat. I'm not going to measure where we're going to be going. Oh,
we'll take your boat. Okay.
So dumb. We switch back to Rand. He is 5 miles out of Kyrian. I don't know why I can't say this.
Kyrian.
Yeah, he's getting ready for the fight, and he's wondering if the Aiel, like some Aiel, are waiting. They're waiting in the wings to see what Rand does before they help him. And he's like, I hope they will actually help. He set up a tower with a looking glass to see what's going on. Asmodean admits he marked Couladin's arm to give him some time to see how Rand worked and if he wanted to help him, all that jazz. Matt is considering leaving. He tells Rand he's leaving, and Rand's like, cool, that's fine. And he's like, I can't believe he didn't try to stop me. And Rand is like, when did I ever try to stop you?
I never tried to stop you.
This hasn't been one of our problems, Matt. You just keep saying like, oh, Rand, you're dragging me along.
Taviran, it's like, exactly. So is Perrin. He left when he needed to. Leave when you need to. Not forcing anybody.
But then Matt feels like dicer in his head. And then we switch over to Rand's POV, and he's like, I hope he can actually leave. I'm sorry that later on I'll have to use him because that's just how this works. And then he like talks about how he'll have to use Perrin too and how much he regrets it, but he hopes they can be happy from time to time.
Also, the little like internal monologue that Matt has where he's like, I know that we won't be mentioned in the stories as much as Rand will be, but we're all Taviran. Like, get over it.
Rand is also going to go mad. So like, would you rather be Rand? Like, because I don't think
get over it, Matt.
No. And Rand also is like, don't tell Egwene you're leaving because she's pretty much a Aes Sedai now. Like, it's just not going to be helpful. Rand goes into battle with Aviendha, Egwene, and the Women of the Spear. Matt goes to leave, but ends up leading lords into battle against the a Shido trap. He sees like a trap because he knows all the battles now after he went through the Twisted Door the second time. It's a thing, guys. Like Rand, while he's in the tower, he is using a ton of Sidene. He's exhausting himself. Then he's attacked with lightning, and he realizes that Samael tried to hit him, killed a bunch of people. Matt is helping with the battle. Then Couladin comes in, and Matt is the one who kills him. Rand, it switches over to Rand. He's like, it's been fighting for hours. He's exhausted. Egwene and Aviendha aren't even there. And he's so tired and giddy, he can't think straight. They bring him to the Wise One's tent, and he like sees everyone working. He starts talking to Lan about Samael. He's kind of obsessed with Samael now.
Right.
And then he feels faint and falls from his horse. He feels a trickle of Sidene from Asmodean, and he passes out. Matt is alone and contemplating the events of the day. He's trying to avoid the fact that he killed Couladin. Melindra, the woman he's having sex with, his lady friend, comes in. She's proud of him. The lords want to make him a general and say he needs his own banner. Rand wakes up. Aviendha tells him Moiraine healed him. Rand is obsessed with who gave Aviendha her necklace. And the answer will always be Egwene. It's not a big deal. But he's obsessed. The other chiefs will be coming to Rand. And then he's like shocked. Oh, the other chiefs who weren't helping with the fight are like negotiating with the Wise Ones to come in and help with, and Egwene's there because of course she is. Rand is astounded Matt killed Couladin, and he wonders why Samael didn't come to kill him when he was at his weakest. He thinks he wants to send someone back to Tyr to start up, and he wants to move forward to Samael. Asmodean says that there are all dangerous men. There are a ton of Kyrian lords and ladies who come in, and they're like, are you going to try to take the Sun Throne? And he's like, no, I'm going to put someone up there who deserves it. And they're relieved because they're hoping it's one for him. Then like Aviendha is still there. Rand can't find his clothes. He needs to get ready. And she's like, you need rest. And he's like, where are my clothes? And then he finds out she's sitting on them. So he pushes her out of the way. He notes that some Aiel are wearing like scarlet headbands with an Aes Sedai symbol on them. And it's like the spear of the dragon in Old Tongue. They believe serving Rand expiates their sins and failing the Aes Sedai in previous life. They pass Hadna and Kadir's wagons guarded by stone dogs. Moraine is examining the twisted red doorway, and Rand wonders why Kadir is still around. And like he does admit that like he said Kadir could leave at any time, but no matter what, he had to leave the wagon. So he, I guess, did take care of that from last week's episode. Right. They can't find Ascendra, and he's like, "That's weird." And they've like looked everywhere for her. Rand's just going through the town and seeing everyone, and exuding his authority in Kyrian. Mm-hmm. He orders the Kyrian nobles to join the Tyrans in order of rank. Then he orders that all but one of his dragon banners be replaced with the rising sun of Kyrene to join the crescent banners of Tyr. The Kyrian nobles shout for joy while the Tyrans approve, stunned. The nobles swear oaths of fealty to Rand in order of rank, and that all goes down. We jump back to like Nynaeve. She and Elaine are fighting like all the time now, and everyone comments on it because girls Brigitte, be fighting. Brigitte. Mogadine is like, they're still so nervous about Mogadine being around, but Nynaeve said she'll go to the heart of the stone to see if Egwene is there and then come right back. Brigitte enters. Nynaeve snipes at her, comparing her to like people who, because like Brigitte is comfortable in her own body and willing to wear skimpy dresses, and Nynaeve hates that. Even though in this book, Nynaeve is often like, I can't believe we had to wear these skimpy dresses. But Elaine has commented more than once that Nynaeve always picks low-cut stuff. So it's like...
But Nynaeve has also mentioned, like, my low-cut dress, I was about to fall out of it. Or like, yeah. Okay.
It's so weird. I don't know.
It doesn't add up.
Yeah, it just doesn't add up. They just keep sniping at each other. And then all of a sudden they go outside. The men report that there are riots in Samara and there's like smoke coming out of there. Dragonsworn are fighting White Cloaks. Dragonsworn are like the guys for the prophets. The prophet, yeah. And then you find out that they're fighting about a boat. And so they're probably fighting about getting Nynaeve on this boat on both sides. And this started a riot. And Nynaeve was like, I could have them both go after a boat for me. It's good to like spread it around. And it's like, this is what happened. This is the result.
This started a riot.
Yeah. But anyway, they decide they have to leave. Elaine tries to get Cardinin, who's like the Sanchen, to join them. And she's like, no. Luca proposes to Nynaeve, sort of. He like just wants her to be his mistress. And she's
he's like, please stay.
And she's like, I just can't get married to you. And he's like, oh yeah, married. That's what I
Oh.
Marriage.
I was definitely on the same page.
Right. But then they pack up everything. They pack up the seal. She can feel evil oozing from it. And then they talk about her twisted ring and Lan's ring, and she doesn't want to take the silver arrow, but Elaine packs it. It's just so weird. They all like pack up with Uno and like 15 of his soldiers because he said that they were coming with him. Galad gets them to the ship, and Nynaeve forces the captain to take on refugees as well because, again, as I've said, Nynaeve is a radical leftist. I'm here for it.
Yep.
Elaine starts using air to get the boat to move faster. They continue to fight, and then they realize that the guy's a smuggler because Elaine's like, he's a smuggler, and Nynaeve's like, really? And then Elaine's like, we can use that as leverage. And then the first night, they decide to go into Tala and Riyadh with the twisted ring and an iron disc that can take them there. In the heart of the stone, Egwene, they wait to see if Egwene arrives. She does not. They kind of just travel around. They go to the royal palace in Camelin, and Nynaeve is like actually impressed, but Elaine is very quiet. And then they go to Edmund's Field, where they see the large manor house being built outside the village. And Nynaeve is like, I wonder who's going to be living there. And it's like, it's obviously Perrin.
Right.
It's Perrin. But then they go back to the White Tower. They notice that there are only 6 chairs there for the council. So like Elida's definitely gotten rid of some people. They note that Rand is now in Kyrene. There's an angry letter from Elida ordering all the Aes Sedai to return to the White Tower unless they have specific orders directed to them from her. Pedron Niall is still recalling all the White Cloaks to Amadisha. And then, there's a bunch of other politics things going on. They meet up with Egwene and the Wise Ones, and they learn about the victory and how Matt killed Couladin. And no one can believe Matt is that useful at all.
Well, I mean, if people would have said to us, Matt is very useful, we would have been like, at this point, no, can't believe it.
And that's very true.
During the first book, we were not on board with that. So
we've seen him grow.
Yeah.
Then They meet up with Egwene. They're talking about all that. And then they meet up later for like Egwene to like yell at them for no reason. It was very stupid. It was like, you're slipping that we have secret meetings. Don't tell them that. And it's just like, this is just to show that like Egwene's coming into her own, but in like the worst way and most annoying way possible. Robert Jordan.
Because she has to be angry. That's the only way you can do that.
That's the only way a character can grow, obviously.
Be angry and yell at people.
Yeah. And then Nynaeve and Elaine they like go on the boat to Solidar with Brigitte. They learn about Suyan and Liani being alive, and Nynaeve is like, I want to study stilling. Like, I think it would be interesting. Like, I wonder if I could heal you. And everyone's like, you can't. And I'm like, oh, that's a good plot point for Nynaeve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she also noticed that Suyan and Liani are pretending to fight all the time, and she calls them out on it. And Suyan is like, shut up, and stalks away. Elaine talks to Min about like how Min is one of the women that she'll have to share Rand with. And Min is like, yeah, but I don't know who the third one is. And Elaine's like, I'm just so glad Aviendha's watching over Rand for me. And it's like, really, you can't pick up on any of those context clues. We cut over to Rand. People are throwing women at him, and he's like trying to like be stupid. He's just so stupid about it. And yeah. And later Aviendha takes care of it by like throwing a woman out of his room. And he's like, good, it'll never happen again.
Women are so confusing. The only women I understand is Min, because she's never confused me.
She's nice to me. She would never go for me because we've never had a effing conversation before, but don't worry, she will. You don't even need to converse. He receives a message from Berylane. She's on her way to him with a small army. She also asks after Perrin because reasons. And he's
because dumb.
Yeah. And he's like, I might put her in charge of Kyrian. And because he plans to take the others with him. He's getting letters from both factions of the Aes Sedai. One of them is like, don't tell Moraine about this. And he's like, hey, Moraine, read this. And like, he also learns that like all these men have sworn fealty to Matt, and they're calling them the Band of the Red Hand, and it's growing fast. And Moraine notes that the Band of the Red Hand, or Shenal Kalhar in the Old Tongue, was Aemon's personal army during the Trolloc Wars. So we go over to Egwene. Moraine warns Egwene and Aviendha of the dangers they face tomorrow. Then she leaves because they're about to like go off to fight Samael, all that stuff. And then Matt angrily returns to his room after meeting with Rand. Rand was as dogged as Hawkwing after a rout of the Coal Pass. So he's just remembering old stuff, you know?
Right.
Melinda returns. She checks on Kadir every day. He's down by the docks looking for a ship to Tarvalon. Matt tells her he will be leaving for a while and mentions Caemlyn. She immediately attacks him and tries to kill him with a dagger.
Yeah, she almost killed him.
Yep. With 9 golden bees, he manages to fatally wound her. And as she dies, she tells him some oaths are more important than others. She was a dark friend. Matt is very upset that he killed a woman because these men have like mental breakdowns anytime they kill a woman. Anytime.
Here's my thing though. If she's attacking you, it's justified to defend yourself.
Right. I don't understand how I killed in self-defense, but because it was a woman, I can't take this. Like
it makes no sense.
It makes no sense. But he realizes that like she was sent by Samael, and like he's scared because one of the Forsaken noticed him. The next morning, Rand prepares for his attack on Ravin. Aviendha's in his room with him, getting dressed. She tells him that she did not tell Sulin to ask the others to watch him. They did it on her own, like during the battle. And she's like asking him about his plans. They're just talking, you know, because they actually have conversations together, and that's why they had sex. Asmodean enters and says he wants to go with Rand, even though he's not going to be that helpful. And Rand like considered going to Tyr for Kalendor or to the Radium for the control statue, but he does not trust himself with that much power. He opens the door to find Matt standing there. Matt tells Rand what happened with Melindra, and Rand says he will deal with Samael later. Aviendha thinks Rand is responsible for the maidens not being there as the 4 of them leave. Egwene and Moraine join them. Moraine gives him 2 letters. There's 2 letters, one for Rand and one for her love, Tom Marilyn.
Tom.
I'd love that does not exist.
Forever.
Old 30-year gap people. Then she tells him that there's something urgent for him to see at the docks, and he's like, I don't want to do this, but then he goes anyway. Down by the docks, Kadir wishes he could get away. Lanfear has not returned to his dreams for some times, and he's just like really freaking out about it. And he, like the night before, Moraine made him uncover the twisted red doorway for some reason. He thinks Rand is sleeping with Aviendha. Now he actually is. And he's like bemoaning why Natail hasn't been more help. He runs into the fat woman from book 4, Kylie, and he like follows her into his wagon where she reveals herself as Lanfear. And Lanfear, he starts talking to Lanfear about all he knows, and she begins to grow angry. At the wagon,
she's furious that he was with Aviendha.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what happens. So Rand goes up to the docks, he ties up Jodin, and Moraine shows him the seals. And then suddenly Kadir's wagon explodes, and Rand, Moraine, and Lan run to it. Lanfear steps out, and she's holding Kadir's whole skin. And she is so mad at Rand for sleeping with another woman. And she's like, only I can have you. She casually knocks Moraine and Lan aside, and then she sends waves of fire over the nearby Aiel. Rand tries to shield them, and Mat and Asmodean are left outside the wall of like air that Rand puts around everyone to keep them safe. But Egwene and Aviendha are too near him. Lanfear begins to torture them, and Rand cuts her weaves with spirit, fire, and earth. They've become way more scientific with which power they're using at which time, because Robert Dorn decided that was important. Rand and Lanfear's battle, they're trying to shield each other. He calls her Myrene, which he had called her earlier in the book, and tells her he always belonged to Ileana, and he can feel in his thoughts from Luz Therins that there's a way to defeat her, but he cannot bring himself to do it. She begins torturing him and climbs atop the wagon with the twisted red doorway. He sees that she is now holding an ivory bracelet, which is a Terra Ingrial, and he can feel himself dying, but he cannot make himself kill her. Again, it's self-defense. Just kill her. Right. Whatever. Moraine crawls out from under the wagon. She sees Rand and Lanfear, and it's an image she saw in Ruidian when she had gone through those, circles. She sees the ivory bracelet, and she knows that it was brought from Ruidian and placed in the wagon yesterday. And she carefully climbs onto the wagon, opens herself to Sadar, and leaps at Lanfear, grabbing the ivory bracelet through her and sending them both through the twisted red doorway, which is where they're believed to be dead. So Rand is very upset by this. Asmodean looks terrified, and they gather around Aviendha and Egwene. Aviendha is recovering, but Egwene is badly hurt. The wise ones tell her that she is banned from Teller and Riald until she is well, because that matters right now.
I was gonna say.
I mean, it's just so dumb.
He has to also bind Lan with air so he doesn't jump in after Moraine.
Right. Rand blames himself for Moraine's death because he could not kill Lanfear. Once Lan has calmed down, he says, I actually have to go, because Rand is like, I'd like you to stay with me. And he's like, yeah, she passed on my bond, so I have to go. I can feel it already that I must go. And he asks Rand to bid farewell to Nynaeve for him and tell him that he found another woman. God, this is the dumbest thing, where he's like, I think sometimes you have to let a woman go, and you can't trust her to understand the complexities of the world. It was just so frustrating to read that from Lan, where I'm like, Lan, you throughout this entire time, you've been strong man, and I do love you, but I can't have you. And now it's I need to lie to her to protect her. It was just the biggest, I don't know. Yeah. But Rand opens Moraine's letter, and she writes that if he's reading this, then things have happened as she hoped. She knew since Ruidian that the news of Morgase would arrive. Oh, because they all think Morgase is dead at this point. I forgot that part. And Rand is very sad about it for Elaine, because he made out with her twice.
Sure. Yeah.
And then
they love each other.
Oh God. But she saw that after Morgase's news that Lanfear will be coming, and there were only two possible outcomes: Lanfear killing him or Rand joining Lanfear. And she hoped Egwene and Aviendha are okay, and beyond that she knows only one small thing after which she does not concern Rand. She warns him to trust no Aes Sedai, to be as suspicious of Varen as of Alviren, which you always said Varen was suspicious.
Who said that she was suspicious? Yep. Just throwing it out there.
And Rand wonders why those two. He must be free, and even the best intentioned Aes Sedai will try to influence him. She asks him to deliver Tom's letter, and finally she warns him to be careful of Jason Natail. She cannot approve, but she understands, so she knows who he was the entire time.
Yep.
And she warns him that he is the same man as he was. Rand wonders how she knew about Asmodean. Sulin enters, and like begins breaking her spears because they are dishonored since he will not take them to battle against one of the Forsaken, because Rand is a misogynist. And he like doesn't like putting women in danger, but it does not matter. And then so he ends up letting them come because he should have in the first place. They're his warriors. Yeah. Matt is sitting nearby and he says in the old tongue, "It's time to roll the die." So they go to the sun. They head off to Camelin to go after Samael. Rand uses like the jumping thing. Like he can't make a gateway.
Skimming thing.
So he uses skimming to like get all these people onto this like giant disc to travel all the way to Camelin.
The big frisbee.
But people fall off and Rand is like I would put
like, dang it.
He does the Fairly Odd Parents like, curse you, like, because he is the reason 2 people die because he can't make a gateway.
Yeah.
They go in and they decide to climb over the wall, like the one place where everyone can climb into the palace of Camelin.
How have they still not gotten better security in that spot?
I don't know. It's so funny, but like Rand has climbed up that wall before. Matt has climbed up that wall. Like everybody's climbing.
Everybody knows about that spot.
I know. And so they start to climb, but then all of a sudden they're attacked by Trollocs and Fades. They're fighting and they're trying to like get everything done. And then all of the sudden, like you find out Aviendha, Asmodee, and Matt are all dead. And Rand knows that the Foxhead medallion did not save him from Sidene.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like the way Jordan killed them off, I was confused and didn't realize they were dead.
Didn't think they were dead, I guess, I
didn't think they were dead until later.
He's like, a long time. I'm like,
I have to save them. I was like, wait, they died? And Robert Jordan needs to be a little bit better about how people react to things.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense. But anyway.
If it was Min, he probably would have had more of a reaction.
Right. So we cut over to Nynaeve where people are still trying to make her like be a better Aes Sedai. And she's like, I just can't do it. And she's also like taking people into Tel Anriad. Nynaeve does have a bit of growth because she like isn't fighting them so much on this. She's just actually taking them and doing what's being asked of her. I mean, she's still fighting because she's Nynaeve, but in her own way. But anyway, Suyan is also forcing Nynaeve to take her into Tel Anriad because even though she can't channel there, she wants to learn more about it.
Yeah, she wants to like learn the rules of the place. She
makes fun of Suyan about how much she and Gareth Bryn and how much they fight. And then they get into a tussle because women be fighting. And then Suyan is laughing because she's like, I can't believe how stupid we are, you know? And then Nynaeve sees like a face in the window and she thinks it might be Mogadine. So she snatches the twisted ring from Suyan, not knowing what that would do.
Well, and it like forces her out of the dream world.
Right. And so they're like, she's very worried. So she starts running away from Mogadine, but Mogadine catches up to her and she is way too strong for Nynaeve. And then Brigitte appears and she makes the mistake of warning Mogadine before killing her, and Mogadine traps her, turning her into a little girl.
She turns her into a baby, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, it's like a little baby with like golden curls and stuff.
Which is like such a cartoonish thing where they're like, it's almost like you're like, and then she's like a little baby.
I mean, if this TV show were made in the 90s, they would definitely do that. I hope
where it has like the lights, it looks like a laser, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She just becomes a baby, the light appears around her and she's like, boop, baby, and then she's like crawling around.
I'm just like seeing this being filmed as like a Spaceballs type parody.
Kind of. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
It'd be very funny.
That is very funny. But then Nynaeve realizes like, hey, we're in the dream world. I could definitely do what I want here. And then she makes an Adam that she puts around Mogadine. And then she like Mogadine is like, oh my God, you have power over me now. And she's like, yep, now turn Brigitte back. And so she does. So then she's like, hey, Mogadine, what's going on with everything? And Mogadine starts blabbing. She says that Rand is going to Robin today because he thinks he killed Morghese. Robin, aka Samael, never trusted any of them. He has wards set off so that if any man channels in Camelin, he will know. Rand meant to leave at sunrise, so the trap is probably already sprung. Nynaeve and Brigitte are worried about how Elaine will take the death of her mother, but they have more urgent issues at the moment. Nynaeve can now channel strongly using Mogadine in the Adam, and just then Brigitte wakes up in the real world, so she fades away. She like took a little bit of tea to put her asleep, but it wasn't enough. And then Nynaeve asks Mogadine takes Mogadine to the royal palace in Camelin to try and help Rand because Nynaeve is a bad bitch. push over to Rand, who's chasing Robin through the royal palace. He has the little fat man and Griel. I don't know why
I don't know why that is
it's just
what
the
it has
little
to be.
fat man. It just has to be because fat phobia, I guess. Luz Theron's thoughts are mixing with his own. Luz Theron moans about the loss of Ileana Sunhair. He confronts 24 men led by a Fade and freezes them. That he's pretty much just chasing Robin here, there, and everywhere, and then Robin tries to balefire him. I like that that's used. Like I guys, I use notes from like an encyclopedia site sometimes, and they always use balefire as a verb. Like they're trying to just balefire. Like you got balefired, man. They're trying to balefire him. Rand returns the favor and then runs down the hall through a sitting room, and then he no longer hears Luz Theron's voice, and he sensed the residue of a gateway. He travels and finds himself in the image of the same place, and we find out that he is actually in Tela an Riyadh, but he is awake, which is like very dangerous. Nynaeve and Mogadine have to like dodge balefire in the royal palace. Mogadine is in panic because she is a chicken. It's more dangerous if you're in Tela an Riyadh in the Flash, but you're also very like so much stronger. Nynaeve is just pretty much fighting with Mogadine, you know, because women be fighting. And Rand is trying to like avoid the Robin traps that are being put up. He nearly drowns in a fish pond and is severely bitten before he can change it back. He sees another gateway and goes towards it, but it is a trap. He feels himself turning into an animal, and Saidin begins to slip away. He knows Robin must be nearby, but he can do nothing. Nynaeve is following Robin's footsteps and finally sees him looking down through a window. Nynaeve tries to flash fry him, but he's still alive and turns on them. Rand sees the fire and feels the trap dissolve. Now full of Saidin, he sees Robin and balefires him with all of his power. He then rushes upstairs to make sure he's dead. Nynaeve sees the flash and Mogadine weeps in relief. Rand comes up some stairs and Nynaeve changes the appearance of the Adam so he will not recognize it. Rand realizes that this is the place where she meets Egwene. Nynaeve tells him that the wise ones say entering Tela an Riyadh in the flesh is very dangerous and evil, but he does not listen. She heals his recent injuries, then confirms that she saw Robin die. He asks her to tell Elaine to forget him and passes on Lan's message to forget Nynaeve. And Nynaeve is like, men are so effing dumb. I can't take it. Yeah. So, and Mogadine is very impressed by Rand. He and Rand disappears. Nynaeve creates a cup of like fork root tea and gives it to Mogadine to drink.
It's a sleeping potion stuff, isn't it?
Yes. Nynaeve notes that she knew Brigitte was alive, and like she tells Mogadine that she will see her in Salidar. Mogadine, and because she realizes that
in the real world, that's where she's at.
Yeah, in the real world, Mogadine put herself in Salidar and was like hiding as a spy there for weeks, and she knew that because of the things Mogadine had told her. Back in the royal palace, Rand goes out to the main courtyard and finds the battle still in progress. He picks off the Trollocs and Fades with more balefire, and he eventually, those that are left, flee. He sees Mat, Aviendha, and Asmodean alive again because he balefired so much. This is a real thing. He tells them that Robin is dead. Bale and Sulin come over to tell him that the Trollocs and Fades are running, and he orders Bale to hunt them down. Later this same day, Rand is at the window of the throne room of the royal palace watching Mat, Aviendha, and Asmodean in the garden below. He overheard Sulin tell Aviendha that she is no longer a maiden, so she cannot help hunt Trollocs. A man enters and introduces himself as Devram Bashir, Marshal General of Celtia. He says he came to see Morghese, but Gabriel's men put him off. Rand tells him that Gabriel killed Morghese and that he killed Gabriel. He is holding the throne for Elaine. Bashir tells Rand that Tenobia sent him to retake Mazrim Time after the White Tower let him escape. He left the rest of his army camped in the woods. Rand tells Bashir that he is announcing an amnesty for men who can channel. Bashir asks if he means to rule the world. Rand says only intends to impose peace and unity for the last battle by whatever means necessary. Bashir says he has read the Carathian cycle, and so has Tenobia. He cannot speak for Celtia, but he will offer his services and 9,000 cavalry until he gets the message back to Celtia. Rand thinks of Samael and Ilion, the rest of the Forsaken, and the Xian Chen. He says there will be blood and death before there is peace. Bashir says there always is. Oh, sorry. Revan is not the same as Samael. I think I said that at one point, but that is a lie.
Robin and Gabriel are the same, correct?
Yes, Robin and Gabriel were the same. There's too many names here, guys. I apologize.
There are a lot.
And Hannah's terrible with names, as evidenced by this entire podcast, and Laura often having to tell me who is who. We cut over to Asmodean, who leaves Matt and Aviendha. As he walks down the Great Hall, he recognizes balefire damage and does not want to think about it. He still feels loyalty to the Great Lord, despite what he says for Rand. He is glad that Robin and Lanfear are dead, especially Lanfear for what she did to him. He will hold on to the small chance that he has for as long as he can. He pulled open a small door, intending to find his way to the pantry. There should be some decent wine. One step and he stopped, and the blood draining from his face. You know, the word still hung in the air when death took him. So Asmodean is now dead. And then we cut over to Morghese, who is in fact alive because she ran away. They're trying to find Gareth Bryn in Core Springs, but he's already gone. They left the village of Sahar and are heading to another place, to a ferry to cross the river to Amadisha. She thinks she will find her allies where she can, and woe to Gabriel and any man who thinks he can sit on her throne. Again, Rand is not trying to sit on her throne, so I don't know why that wording was quite there.
Because it's going to be a conflict.
Yeah. And then there's like a footer about glory and light on the Dragon Reborn. So that is the 5th book in Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series.
Okay, were you surprised by Asmodean at the end?
Yeah, I mean, I was very shocked.
I was.
Yeah, no, it's very. I was like, okay, so I figured like Moraine was also going to like quote unquote die eventually.
Yeah,
but
I wasn't as shocked by that. But the Asmodean thing shocked me.
I wasn't shocked by what happened to Moraine. I was more like, I was very sad that it was happening.
Yeah, I was. I was sad that Moraine had to like sacrifice herself. So.
I know. I was like, oh, this is really upsetting me right now. I don't like this. I'm not a fan.
But yeah, good riddance to Lanfear.
Good riddance to Lanfear. I don't ever want to talk about that woman again. She is the worst.
Hopefully she is gone for good.
I know. Let's hope so.
See.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just very, very, very annoying. But anyway.
But yeah, the Asmodean thing was a shock to me.
I thought so too. That was very shocking. So I'm like, I was sad because I like when they have like weird dynamics with the men. Like when the men are riffing off each other, I prefer that so much more to how Robert Jordan writes women and men in conflict. Because like
it's always just like
screaming at each other or
fighting that is so unnecessary and could have been solved easily with like, hey Rand, I'm really attracted to you. And I have a hard time being in your bedchamber.
Exactly.
But instead it's like, you're awful. You belong to Elaine.
I hate you so much. You don't tell me. I tell you. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
And like, I one of the people you hate? Yes.
Well, and then the women on women, it's just catty. Like it's just cattiness. So it just doesn't make sense overall. I don't get it. I don't like it. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt joke where Titus says something about how men and women can't be friends. Neither can women and women.
Yes, exactly.
That's not the exact line, but it's something similar to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. Yeah, I like the men on men dynamics in this because it's so much more interesting than anything else we're reading. But, what you gonna do? Robert Jordan wrote this entire book series and we're stuck with it. So
what'd you think overall?
I really liked this book. I think it's my favorite one so far. I really like the storyline. Foreshadowing to our women episode, I liked Nynaeve in this book. I thought she was like getting a little bit of the short shrift from people.
Yeah.
I was very upset.
It was a good Nynaeve book, really.
It was a good Nynaeve book. I thought he did really great things. It was less of a good Egwene book, who is my favorite. Yeah. And that's sad. And we didn't get Perrin, which is sad for you, apparently.
Yeah, I miss Perrin. But you know what? I think I needed a palate cleanser from him and Fael because I don't know if I could take much of that.
Me neither. I'm just not interested in their stuff. I liked how everyone's plot like kind of just moved forward. I thought that there was actually excellent character development. Like I like what we see in Rand. I like what we see in Matt. I think this book is getting like these books are getting better and better. There's more like political intrigue. I know that is not going to always be the case because I think this book series was maybe too long, just as a theory.
I think it was really good.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad we are in agreement that it was a very good one.
I think between this one and the last one, I'm stuck with which one I like more. I really like both of them.
Okay, so we're 5 books in. So what are your rankings for the first 5 books?
Ooh, okay. So I might go Fires of Heaven, and then Shadow Rising, and then Dragon Reborn, and then the first one.
I Have the World.
Thank you. And then The Great Hunt is definitely last.
Okay, so yeah, I think I would go Fires of Heaven, The Dragon Reborn, then The Shadow Rising, then The Eye of the World, and then Great Hunt.
Yeah, I could see that ranking also.
Yeah, I think I did like the third book a little bit more than I liked the fourth book. The fourth book was a little bit more of a slog for me than the third. But yeah, we're both in agreement that like The Great Hunt is
The Great Hunt was the worst one.
It is the Seinfeld of this series. Everything happens, but yet nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
We had to meet Lanfear with her shrinking night
The Fires of Heaven was the Summer of George. So
got it. Yeah, the Summer of George. Perfect. Yeah, I definitely liked The Fires of Heaven best. So I'm glad we have those for our rankings. It's a good note to end on. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Listen to us on Fiction Fans.
Listen to us on Fiction Fans. I think I'm not sure when that's going to be coming out, but it will be coming out. So download all their other episodes too.
Just listen to all of their episodes.
They're fun.
There you go.
Yeah, just go listen to Fiction Fans podcast, but also listen to us, and you can follow us at Our Pod. That's OWWR Pod on all social media. You can also email us if you have any thoughts on this book series. If you would like to bring something up about one of the characters, you can do that at ourpod@gmail.com. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to our show. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing is a great way to let people know we're on the map and get more people listening. And we just want more people to join in the conversation. So we look forward to talking to you guys next week about the men and boys. I always say boys because let's face it, I still think mostly a lot of them are boys. We will be discussing the men and boys in The Fires of Heaven. Bye.
Bye.